Merry Christmas everybody, welcome into my studio again. Hopefully the sound is working, hopefully the screen is working and we're all live and we've got no problems at all. So just let me know when you can that we are all live, everything is working, and then we can jump right in. Hopefully this time get a lot more done. This will probably be the last video I'm doing up until Christmas, but I hope to do a lot more after Christmas. I know a lot of people are going to be spending quite a bit of time indoors, and I think this will be a good time to really try and perfect these live streams so that I can drop in every now and again and do half an hour to an hour's worth of drawing, share some techniques with you all, and hopefully answer as many questions as you've got at the same time. So the numbers are starting to build up. If you've got any art friends out there, please let them know, share the link for the video, because the more people I can get on here, the more it's worth me actually doing it. So hopefully the numbers will keep growing. And for those that didn't see my first episode, let me just quickly recap on it, show you what I've done so far, show you what I'm working on. The paper pastel mat, clay fontaine pastel mat. This is anthracite, which is basically a dark grey. It's usually lighter than this. I've sprayed it with their new Pastel Revolution spray, which you don't have to do by any means, but I've sprayed it to make it a bit darker, just because the reference photo that hopefully you can see in the top left hand corner, which I got from Pixabay, the free photography site, image sharing site. I wanted to work from something just a little bit darker, that's all. It means I haven't got to put as much dark pastel down on the surface myself, and that obviously helps with the amount of potential smudging that I could get. Now, you guys that are watching on mobile devices especially, I'm streaming this at 1080p, so it's HD quality. Remember to alter your setting on the screen. You usually got to just tap the video and a cog will come up somewhere, usually top right hand corner. You can click that and select the highest number on there. As I said, it's usually going to be 1080p or HD, especially on a computer screen. When you go to the smaller devices and different screens, sometimes you'll only get something like 480 on the old devices, but it can make a very big difference. So don't forget to put it on the top quality so you can see it as best you can. YouTube always kind of downstreams it, and the colors don't come out usually as vibrant as I'm seeing on my board. Okay, so the white marks you see, that's my outline drawing. I did that with transfer paper. If you want, you can draw straight on the paper, but one thing you don't really want to be doing is erasing hard on there. It's a real tough paper. I think it's the toughest of all the pastel papers for really taking a bit of hard, abuse of it. Some of the papers are very soft. This one will take that, but you don't want to be erasing and creating a lot of dust, and perhaps even making the surface a bit shiny. So if you want to draw freehand, I draw on a separate piece of paper, then use your transfer paper so we haven't got any mistakes on there. I've used the white transfer paper basically for the lines to show up, because obviously a dark line wouldn't show up on there. So I'm watching the chat as well as we're going along. If you've got questions, ask them on there. If I miss them and I don't answer them within 5 or so minutes, don't forget to ask again on there. So I've got Louise is on there. Hi Louise, Dottie, Sabine. We've got members of my Patreon channel as well from around the world. It's great to see those on here as well. If you're looking for lots of in-depth videos, some are going 6-8 hours long in say 4 to 6 parts. Patreon is the place to find those, and you can get access to all of them from just $9 a month. Okay, so let's make a start. I think I'll get the pan pastels out again. It's what I did on the first episode. For those that don't know, here's your pan pastels. Pastel in these little cake tins. Okay, it doesn't look like there's much in there, but there's a lot in there. They last a very, very long time. I've been using them for around about 2.5 years, maybe 3 years. I've never had to buy another one yet because it's run out. So that's how long they last. You don't need much of them, and all you need are little applicators. They look like makeup applicators. Some people use makeup applicators. I like the actual pan pastel ones. They're called soft tools. I like to use those myself, but experiment. It doesn't cost much to try them out. They won't last forever. They do wear out. Pastel mat has got a slightly textured surface, and these are fairly soft, so they blend well. So as you can imagine, these will wear out eventually. I use printer paper. I've got some here, that's what I used last time, and just fold that over like that. Okay, so I got a fresh piece of paper. So there's the printer paper. That's my mixing palette. Let me put that over there. So all I do is take some of the actual powder of the pan, put it on there. Let me get another magnet here, just so I can keep that paper nice and steady for you guys. If I want it a bit bluer, I'll add a little bit of blue in there. Don't ever worry about these getting dirty. All you've got to do is just get a clean sponge and just wipe the top. That noise you're no doubt hearing, the tapping noise, that's another big storm happening in the UK. I always seem to be doing live streams when the storms are happening, and of course, being Wales, if I waited for the live streams and waited for the rain to stop, you'd probably never ever see me do one. So we're just going to have to make the best of it and work through it, and hopefully you can all still hear me okay. We don't have to be super accurate with this color. We can adjust and alter it a bit, well, quite a lot actually, when we go on top with the pastel pencils. That's what I use for the refinement. Now if you're left-handed, it may have made more sense to start with this eye and work over. I'm just going this way around because that way I'm not really going to be leaning much on there. This stage I think is more like sculpting than drawing. I'm really just looking at the major shapes, getting the basics down in place. As quickly as that, we can start to rough in the shape. Obviously I need to go a bit darker here when I'm looking at the reference, darker under the eye, but pastel mat will hold many more layers, so we don't have to be concerned about that at all. When I'm in the studio drawing and painting, I like to do as many things as I can to ensure that more than likely things are going to work in the studio, because sometimes we don't have a lot of control with everything else we do in our daily lives. I like to use the drawing as my form of kind of relaxation, although I'm not relaxing like sitting on a settee or lying down on a settee. It's not that kind of relaxation that we're doing, but what we are doing is taking our minds out of our normal day-to-day things and giving it something to engage upon that can really fill its job. If you don't give the mind something to think about, then it's going to find something itself, and it's not always, or not even usually, something positive. So this way, when you're really thinking about your drawing and not letting your mind wander everywhere, then this is that break that lots of us really like and need. Okay, so as quick as that, we've got the shape over this side of the eye and the face. You can see this side then, it's more refined, more detailed. Let me move the sheet of paper so you can take a good look. Because that just took me a couple of minutes, if that. You can see how on this more detailed, more refined side, we've got more colours in there. We've got the darker shapes as well, the structure. But we need a base to start with. Now sometimes, if I put a fair bit of pan pastel down, which you don't really want to be doing, you can give it a rub in. Now if you use an ombre type paper, so you see virtually nothing is coming off on my finger. Ombre spelled E-N-G-R-E-S, so ingress. If you use one of those type papers, you've got kind of a waffle appearance to them, and if you rub them like that, this will smudge everywhere. Pastel mat will hold the pastel into the depth of the paper surface. It's kind of a cork surface. It's microfibers in there, all intertwined. If you look under a magnifying glass, and I've used a little one just because I was curious to see how this paper differs from something like a UArt sanded paper, a true sanded paper, so a sand paper, which has basically just got sand on paper. This is very different. All those little fibers that are crisscrossing on the surface, they are what hold the pastel into it. So that's what's preventing it rubbing away. As you build more and more layers and start filling the tooth of the paper up even more, that's when you can get it really smooth. So if you want a lovely smooth background, you need to get layers actually on there to do it. Okay, let's get some brown pencils, work on the eye, work out from the eye, and I need a nice black as well that I sharpen too much, so no doubt that's going to snap off. I don't normally sharpen pencils this much, so we go around there. Let's get the dark in place first, and then we can have a better look at the shape and the form of the eye. You see the paper is black until we put something that's really black on top, then you can see the difference. Just make that light a bit brighter on the side. So it's good to get a dark in quite early on. We want a bit of grey in this corner, and I'll muddy this colour up a bit later on because we don't want it too pure. It's going to be a tiny little dot in that corner as well. And over here is going to be really dark too. Now we want a dark brown here, but dark browns are rare in pastel pencils, so sometimes you've got to put a black on underneath and then just float a little bit of brown on top, or do it the other way around. It doesn't make a lot of difference. It's more of a chocolatey colour in here. Let's try this one. That's not too far out. I use small round strokes when I want something to be quite smooth. Remember, we're not painting a wall, so we don't need to be going up and down, up and down. Come around there on that shape. Now the colour is not perfect, we need to refine it. And I can float one colour over another, mix one colour over another. Do that quite easily. It's dark at the top. It's in shadow. And it won't come alive, it won't really look that much like an eye until we start to get that light spot in place. So we've got some green here, we did that yesterday on the other eye. That's that grass most likely underneath the gorilla. It's probably standing on that grass. And we need some blue for the highlight, which is going to be around about here. We're really hoping that these restrictions and lockdowns end next year, because me and my good friend Louise have got some really exciting pastel holidays that we're hoping to bring out. We was hoping to bring them out towards the end of the year, just gone. That all went a bit wrong, as you can imagine, but we really want to meet up with everybody and have, I think we all deserve a nice relaxing time. What better way to do that than in sunny Spain by our own private pool, being waited on hand and foot and having some fun creating art together as well. So I'm really hoping that we're going to manage to make that happen next year, and then for many years after that as well. Okay, highlights gone in. All of a sudden it's starting to look more alive. Sometimes I like being in the studio when it's raining and this windy, thunder and lightning, and you're in the warm and you can just hear what's happening outside. Okay, that was pretty quick. I need some lighter colours then for this bit of extra highlight down here. Make sure we've got the same colour going in the two eyes. We don't want them to look like they don't belong to each other. Now, I had some news from one of my art friends yesterday that was watching the feed to say that apparently Clairefontaine have, sorry, not Clairefontaine, Caran d'Ache have actually reformulated some of the pencils that I found a problem with a while ago, where I was having those hard bits in there. You may remember that video. So I'm hoping that they've solved most, if not all, of those problems. I haven't heard from them myself. I'm dubious to buy any, really, just in case. But if anybody's buying any new stock and have tried it out, I'd be very interested to know what you found and if they have actually improved. I hope they have. Do I only use pans? So this is from Angie. Do I only use pan pastels for the underlayer, or can you use them for other layers? You can really keep going with pan pastels. The only limiting part is the size of the applicator. So if you want real detail, so the tiny little dots that we've got there, you're going to struggle on this size, this scale. You'd have to draw larger, or you'd have to work out how to get, you know, a smaller applicator yourself to be able to do those marks. For the details, I love to use the pencils personally. So for me, the pans really come into their own when I'm blocking in, or whether I'm doing a large area like a background. That's when I find, for me, they are so useful. I don't always use them as an underlayer. On my videos, I very often show how to do a drawing with different mediums. So some of my videos will show me using just pencils completely. So the whole drawing will be done in pastel pencils only, nothing else. Other videos then I will show using soft pastel sticks, or perhaps Rembrandt sticks or Jackson sticks, and I'll use those as the underlayer. And sometimes I'll use everything. So I'll use the pans, I'll use sticks, I'll use the pencils. Remember, with pastels we've got that ability to be able to mix and match. It's basically the same type of pigment, either in the format of a pencil or in the format of a stick, so they'll all work together. So you don't have to be rigidly just using pans for the underlay and you always use pans for the underlay. It doesn't have to be like that. But one of the advantages with using things like pans is, you can imagine if I had a large area, say all of this was background, and I had to do it in that colour, well, there's only so much pastel actually in the pencil itself, and it'd soon wear out. You get a lot more pastel for your money in the sticks or even in the pans. They last a lot longer. Otherwise you will be buying pencils really frequently. So I'm using the pencil on its side, because I'm not digging into the paper or anything at all. I'm just blocking it in. I can smooth it out a bit with my finger if I want. I need some browns in there as well. I'm just working out where these creases and wrinkles and things live. Near enough. Doesn't have to be perfect, because I'm sure, just like with humans, the next gorilla is going to have wrinkles in a different place, so we don't have to worry too much about that. And this is coming out there. I'm thinking of the shape, the structure that I'm seeing on the reference. So by here we're going a bit darker as well, and that comes up here and around. Anybody that got the ability, so if you're signed into YouTube, I'd love to know what countries we've got actually watching today. It's always interesting to know how far and wide the videos are starting to go. So just drop a little message in there, let me know what country you're from and even what time of day. That's interesting too. In the UK we are around about 5 to 6 in the evening. It's completely black outside. It's been dark now for probably 2 hours, near enough. Now winter time is it can get really quite dreary. So we've gone a little bit darker here, and then down here that's where it goes really dark, and that shows us the shape, the form of where the head is going to be. Benefit of using your pencil on the side like this, it gets really nice and sharp. So I'm not sharpening pencils very frequently. Up here we go with the fingers, separating around here as well. Okay, I think that's starting to come together. Okay, let's look for a blue. Use that quite lightly. Just seeing if I can get my microphone up a bit, because if it's so close to the paper, I know you really hear that roughness. It's not that, but the pastel matte paper is not as rough as this sounds. It's quite surprising. It's fairly smooth. If you go like, if you take clean finger and you go like that, if you do that hard on something like UArt, then you'll be bleeding by now. That's the one thing another thing I really like about pastel matte paper is that we can do things, just looking for my darker pencil, we can do things like that, really rub it with our fingers and still have a fingerprint. So they used to say that you can always tell a pastel artist or a person whether they're going to be they are a pastel artist or they're a thief, because neither of them will probably have a fingerprint. I used to have a bit of trouble sometimes going over the gym because we've got a fingerprint scanner over there, and my fingerprints on my one hand was not as pronounced as it needed to be for the machine, and I couldn't understand why, and then I remembered it's probably from rubbing the paper so much. Okay, so that's where the mouth will end up there. I've got to do a bit more work on the lip because that needs to come around here a bit more and then come out and down around there. The little tiny hairs I'll probably put on later on, so let's start defining these wrinkles a bit more. I need to sharpen my dark brown pencil a minute. Now this is a Caran d'Ache pencil. You can see there's lots of, there's a bit more actual pencil lead, it's not a lead obviously in it, than something like a Pitt. It's a bit thicker. They're soft, so I don't usually sharpen them very much, but I've got a brand new blade in my sharpener, so I know it sharpens well when I've got a new blade in there. You can usually tell when you need a new blade because it's starting to chew up and snap your pencils too much. We inevitably get a bit of snappage, if that's a word, with our pastel pencils because they're that bit softer always than a coloured pencil. So I'm looking at refining now. Let's get a darker blue and also my darker grey. So this is what typically happens. I end up with loads and loads of pencils in my hand, even though I've got these lovely little drawers by the side of me. I always seem to end up with loads of pencils in my hand, and I should imagine most of you are the same. So the pastel initially was the underlayer, and that was just there so that I could see where all these shapes needed to go, where they would live. And now I've gone pretty much past that stage. Now I'm looking more at the reference photo and thinking what the differences are between my drawing and that reference. Do I need to add more colours to certain areas, adjust colours? Do I need to go lighter or darker? That's all the questions that I'm asking myself. As I'm working along. Okay, let's get some more darks going. Laura says, oh goody, a package from Jerry's Artorama has just come in. Well, I for one would love to know what's in there. So if you can quickly grab it and rip it open and let us know what you've bought yourself or somebody's bought you for Christmas. I'm sure we'd all love to know. Especially if it's my wildlife pan pastel set. Now you don't need, let's go back and talk a little bit about pan pastels, because I know a lot of you have them now and you want, perhaps you're building up your set and you want some more. Well, you don't have to go out and buy all the pan pastels. I got a video up on YouTube that shows you which colours you need and what you can mix from just their main colours. So you got, I think it's called tints and shades, I think it is. And I'll have to, let me just look at the bottom of one. We've got, let's see, can I go on? I picked up ones that haven't got it on there, as you would expect. Yeah, we've got tints, I think, are the lighter ones, and we've got like extra darks then. So they take a master colour that they've made and they will add either a white to it or a black to it to make it lighter or darker. Now you can do that yourself, and in that video I show you how I do that. And it's what pan pastels themselves, they don't, you know, necessarily suggest you go out and buy everything. I know people, not everybody has got money to buy all of them, but this way you can very easily mix your colours, as I showed at the beginning how I was mixing them here. You can do that and make a lot of those colours, so you only really need to buy a third of them or less, and you've got the equivalent then of the whole set. So if you watch that video of mine on YouTube, that will potentially save people a lot of money. Okay, let's start to get a bit of highlight in here before I end up fiddling too much. It's a bit too light. Let's try this one. Okay. So we're generally working from dark to light. So that's pretty much the opposite of what you would do if you was working with a coloured pencil. But it's to me it's more intuitive because the highlights sit on the surface of the darker area naturally. That's the way we're able to work with pastels, so for me it makes my life a lot easier being able to do it like that. Down in here we need it a bit lighter too, and I'll come on top of some of these lines with an even lighter pastel. Got my friend Leah online as well. She says looking fab, thank you very much, great of you to join again. Right, okay, so we're going lighter here, a little bit lighter out here, and then a lot lighter coming into the nose area and coming back out on top. I'm just using little stipply type of marks to create that highlight. Remember, we're not really drawing a gorilla as such, or painting, or whatever. We put in one mark next to each other. When they're in the right place, the eye, the human eye, and our brains, is just working it all out and making it look like, in this case, a gorilla. But if you keep zooming in and zooming in, you know, it really is just those marks next to each other. So if you can understand that principle, then there's no reason why you can't draw or paint pretty much anything. It's kind of irrelevant whether it's a gorilla or a cat or a dog. It really doesn't make a lot of difference what the subject is. You should be able to do pretty much any of them. Okay, I think that's turning out okay. Let's put a little bit of detail up by here. So it's not as detailed this side of the face as that side. And it's not meant to be. So I need something, a bit of a dirty greenish colour we've got going on as well. So where light is bouncing around and reflecting around. Laura asks, is it wrong to be an art supply hoarder? I think you were probably asking the wrong group that question if you're expecting anybody in it to say yes, it's wrong. All we're ever going to do on here is recommend you just buy more and more, same as we do. There's a lot worse things you could be doing than buying art supplies, and I think the world could be a lot better place if more people did buy art supplies. A bit more of this purpley bluey colour in here. Okay, I may have to switch over to a different device to look at the chats in a moment. The battery is dying in my wife's phone. If she's watching this, I would appreciate if she could bring her phone up so I can still do the chats, but at least I can carry on drawing whether I'm seeing that or not. So that's my other phone dead. I'll just carry on. A bit more blue up here. As I said, this side of the face goes into more shadow. And I think I'll put some really dark black in here. May not do it yet, because if I put a lot of that in place, I've got the chance then of smudging it with my hand. So let me just see if I can get my other device working a moment. The blue obviously is from I'd say a very brightly lit summer sky above. And that's bouncing around. And you see that colour bounce a lot in the shadows. Okay, I've got the chat working again. It's not quite as easy to see on this device. Very small, but right, I can see it. Okay, I'm back. Julie says she's having a reorganization to get enough room for her art supplies. Okay, Laura says, I saw a video from the maker of pan pastels and she said there is no solution for repairing broken pans. Well, I know lots of members, well not lots of members, but some members on my channel, and some I've seen on YouTube, and sometimes the postal service has damaged the pans when they've been shipping them. Because let me tell you one thing, pan pastel, they really pack those pans well, probably better than any other supplies I've had. So if they come damaged, it's usually, you know, not their fault. Let me get rid of some of these brown pencils in my hand a minute. But I've seen lots of people online and they've definitely fixed their pans. They put I think it's an alcohol in there and leave it overnight, and they come back like new in the morning. So if you just research that online, something like pan pastel, how to fix pan pastels, or pan pastels broken, or something like that, one of those type of keywords, and you'll definitely be able to see how it's quite simply done. It doesn't need to look perfect then, the pans, because we're only putting our kind of pastel tool into those, the soft tools, to use it like that. They don't have to be, as I said, perfect looking pan pastels. They're very usable. And the same thing with pastel sticks. Don't be afraid if you think, oh, the stick is so big that this, I can't hold it easily. Then just snap them in half. When you first have your art supplies, it's usually quite daunting to do things like that, to snap them and to make them more usable. But artists that have been using pans and soft pastels for a long time, if you have a look in their sets, then you'll find that there's lots of broken pastels actually in there. It suits them better because it's fits in the hand easier. You can do smaller marks easier. So this is my new pastel stick. This is how dark I'm going to get that background then, and I can come in with this and usually at the end I'll darken my darks up. You see how much darker they are than the pencil. These are real dark boosters. You sharpen them on sandpaper. Because they are quite hard, so they sharpen up well. And you can see how it really punches it up. Massively increases contrast. And that's how I managed to get a lot more contrast in my drawings and many other pastel artists, just because I use this sometimes, not always. It's not always needed. Some drawings really need to be contrasty. I think this is turning out to be one of those that need that extra boost for the eyes to really stand out a lot in this drawing. Now in the UK these are quite difficult to get hold of, but you can use things like Pastel sticks. They're pretty much as dark as well. The Conti sticks are not. They're not as dark. Charcoal is not as dark. I've got plenty of charcoal sticks and they don't go anywhere near as dark as this. They're more of it. They look really dark, and black pastels look really dark until you put the new pastel by the side of them, and then they don't look dark anymore, they look grey. So a lot of it is kind of relevant. If I didn't put this in, then you wouldn't really know that the pastels weren't that dark. But once I start putting this in, then you need to use it in a good few areas, otherwise it looks a bit strange. It blends nicely, as you can see. And I'll come in and I'll punch a few of these bits up as well later on. You see how that's really starting to stand out a lot more now. I wish they would make a pencil with this pigment in the pencil, if that's possible. It should be, because it's nice and hard here. It'd be easier to sharpen up then, easier to use, and I think that would be a real massive selling point for that company. Perhaps I'll have a word with them and see if that is possible, see if they've ever tried it. Sometimes I ask companies things like that, and more often than not I don't get a reply, but it doesn't hurt to ask, I don't think. Okay, so see how that all of a sudden then that just started to stand out a lot more, and then I can adjust my other tonal values then to correspond with that. You can use these really lightly. You can get these new pastels in sets of, I'm not sure if it's 96 or 72, or I'm really not sure. I haven't got a set of them myself because, as I said, they are difficult to get hold of in the UK. I may actually see if I can get something imported. Gotta be careful sometimes with that because you can end up with a real lot of import duty, which I don't particularly want. Okay, a bit darker on top of the eye, I think, and coming around the corner. Like that. We eventually need a little bit of a wet line under here. Okay, let's have a look for some more messages. Okay. Sharp bless you. I watched an American demonstrator and Pan Pastel were in on the live link. The advice was not to use the alcohol, but to send it back to the supplier. Okay. Fair enough if that's what somebody would want to do, but without a doubt, I've seen people fix it. So if I had, put it like this, if I ordered Pan Pastels and they cost me, I bought the whole set and it was a few $100 and they came and they were damaged, without a shadow of a doubt I would be sending them back to whoever supplied them. If I had my set of Pan Pastels and I've got mine in crates, like a plastic box crates, and it slipped out my hand and I dropped it on the floor, well, what are you going to do? You can't send that back to the supplier. It's nothing to do with them. So without a doubt I would be looking to research then how to fix them myself. So that would be the two scenarios there. So yeah, I would send them back as well if they came from a supplier like that, definitely. But as I said, if I happen to drop them myself, then what are you going to do? You're going to try and fix them. And there is definitely a way to fix them, I think. Okay, so just adding a bit of texture there. Bit of a kind of a randomly marks going on. Jenny says, Merry Christmas, love the jingle bells at the opening. I think I've probably still got them on the computer, so I may be able to give it another go for those. For those that want to get in the Christmas spirit, there's some more reindeer bells going again. If anybody wants to hear them again, just let me know. Okay, so that's starting to come alive, I think. That's not looking too bad. The hand is going to be, well, I wasn't even going to do the hand, but that's going to be, that's not good enough. What about that colour? That's not that far off. I can tone that down a bit again. Let's have a look by here. That's a bit closer. I can add some black to this finger here to tone that colour down a bit. So you really build layers up with pastel. And that area there is also going to now require a real darkness to it for that to work. To separate that from the head, that's going to need it as well, and down there. You see how that, I can darken all that area in, blend it out into the eye, side of the eye. It's got to be really dark under there. Like that. That needs to blend there. Let's put that one down because that's a bit heavy. And then we've got a lighter colour. I'm thinking I'll do this brown here. Blend a bit, add some black. The tonal value is the most important part. More important than the colour. The tonal value is giving you the shape of the object. Whereas the colour is obviously giving you the colour of the object. That's a dark brown. Let's see what that one's like. Okay, that's even better. That's closer again. So it goes like that, and then we need to go lighter. Now we can soften that off. Darker here as well. That goes out to the edge of the paper. So we can put some hair, these little wispy hairs in place on top of the darker area. Down here as well. It also goes darker down on this ridge of the brow. Quite a lot darker here actually. See what I mean about putting that black in once that very dark black goes in. Once that goes in, you need to make sure you use it in the other areas that's required to give that overall correct tonal value. And sometimes you've got to keep retouching it up like I'm having to by here on the finger. Just going to put a bit here. It'll separate that head, bring it forward a bit. You can see that's where I'm going to colour it in later on. Down there. So I want to bring some of this dark in there so we lose that edge a bit. So you can rub that quite hard then. So you can see how that's going to, if I use this on its side as well, now I can sharpen this up a bit. Save me using my sandpaper. Rub that in again. The more it's rubbed in, the less chance we've got then of it smudging anything. This is obviously also going to be nice and dark over here and up into there, so that kind of defines the shape then of the jawline. It's going to be a bit darker up here as well. Got the ear up here and then it's going dark there. So you can see that's where that's going to work. This comes along then for the finger. Like that. We're going to have a bit of a dark mark there. I'm thinking of these live streams, just keeping them to about an hour. Because it's not that easy talking for an hour. You get a bit of a dry throat and things as well. I always think people is going to get a bit bored, so I don't like to go too long. Let's put that down a second. Let's get a bit of brown in here. And I can use my black pencil now. It acts really like a grey. You see, when I'm putting in something that's really quite black, it just looks grey now instead. Right, let's see if I can get a couple of these smaller hairs in. They'll start to make it look a bit more detailed. surprising with just a few of these haze. Can actually make quite a bit of difference in just a few minutes. The storm is starting again by the sound of it. And Paul John says, who's going to watch Wonder Woman 1984 on Christmas Day? I'd like to see the new one, to be honest. That looks quite interesting. I used to like going to the cinema. That hasn't happened for a long, long time. Just put a couple of these haze in place. Some of these haze are quite a bit lighter, so we've got a nice light grey. Don't always think you've got to reach for a white pencil. When you see like light haze, it's very often it's not white. And a white by here would look really stark bright, wouldn't work at all. So always, as I said, be careful of that. You may even sometimes just have a couple of individual little haze that are white in amongst other coloured haze. Don't forget, if you've got other art friends or you're in groups and you're allowed to mention my videos and things on there, because that's the best way for me to get the word out, is for other people to mention it rather than me and sound too much like an advert all the time. So working on dark paper like this, it's a nice little thing you can do to try things out, and you know, try different color papers as well. I very often stick to when I'm doing my usual subjects, so my papers very often dark brown, or pastel matte brown, or the dark grey. That's what they call them. And they work really well. But you know, pastel matte has got lots of other nice colours in there. You've got wine colours and things as well that you can try out. I need to experiment a bit more with them myself. Definitely in the new year I'll try out some different colour papers. So just the indication of a few haze there. Nothing spectacular, nothing dramatic, but it kind of brings it all together a bit more, I think. Paul John asks, is there another lockdown? Yikes, holidays over, they must be sad and different. Yes, in Wales we've got yet another lockdown happening. Yet another one. So all the gyms are shut. All the non-essential shops are shut. Can't visit people on Christmas Day. Got to stay in. All of that type of stuff again is happening. The worst part of it this time is that we don't really know. We've got no date when we're coming out of this lockdown. at all. So we've got no idea how long this is going on for this time. Could be a couple of weeks. Most likely, unfortunately, it's probably going to be a couple of months. Okay, so palm of the hand here is dark, very dark actually, so I might as well just get this new pastel out straight away, because that's going to come down around here. That's where that part of the palm of the hand goes, up there, down there, and then they kind of cross over by there and up there. So that's that kind of shape. And then we've got this finger goes like that, that one goes like that. So that's the shape we're going to be working with there. That comes around like that, and that goes up. So you can see how it's cupping into it. Misty says, she says they say in 5 weeks wherever she's living. I'm not sure. Yeah, the Netherlands, 5 weeks. And Scott Hamilton, my friend Scott, you're in Ontario, Canada. They're in lockdown. Letitia, I love the sound of the rain in the background. It's so cozy. All we need is a fireplace. It is very cozy. It can seem quite nice. The difference is when you've got to live in it all the time. And we've had rain here now for too long. We're starting to have floods and things as well. So it can sound quite nice, but I think I'm 52 now. No, not 52 actually. I'm 51, and I think I've had enough of the rain. Me and my wife, my son, it'd be nice to try somewhere else and leave the rain here for the next generation. There's some green around here. That bouncing light that's happening in the eyes is also happening to some degree on the hand. Not much, and it's more on these fingers now that's pointing downwards. So see, that's just a basic shape there. I'm going to just do a little bit more, then we call it a day. And if you want, I'll come back next time and carry on with a hand, or I can finish this off, put this on Patreon, and come back and do another subject. Totally up to you guys. You've got to let me know the things you want so that I know. I can prepare that then for next time. This colour going on is very similar to the colour of the paper really, so you're not seeing much happening, but it's filling a bit of the tooth of the paper up and it's smoothing things out a bit. In here we need it dark brown, so I'm going to have to go in with this because it's darker brown than any of my dark brown pencils. Just blend that in a bit and then grab my pencil and lightly put a bit of brown on the surface. See how that works? Like that. And that's going to come out here as well eventually. I think that's what I'm going to have to do in quite a few areas. Let's put that down here, just blocking the rough shape. And what I may end up doing is using pastel sticks or something for the hand a bit. Just checking out the stream, what people are saying. Just blocking roughly in bits of the hand. Doing what I normally do, finding the shape form first. Dark areas, light areas, where they're going to live. You can see we've got it going dark around here, and then this all merges together around there. And I'll put a couple of bits of the highlight in where it's going to be. It's kind of like a bluey grey, greeny bluey grey, and got all different colours. It's surprising when you look, there's lots of colours. So we've got this kind of greeny colour going on down here, around there. That kind of goes up, and that's going to go like that, so soften that off, see, like that. And then we've got a light colour that's going to be up here. You see how I'm working it out so that, as I said, I'm giving myself a better chance of actually getting things right. We've got creases that are going to go like this. See, just like that. It's the highlights that's going to make things work. Got a richer green going on down here as well, so it's really quite prominent green. And this skin on the hand that's obviously been doing a lot of digging and things too. See, and even just by putting in just the roughing in of it, it's starting to look a bit more like the shape of a hand, just by doing that for a few minutes. So if you want to be, you know, quite painterly in your approach, then Pastels is excellent for that, because you can see how I could actually have completed all this quite quick if I'd wanted to a, you know, a less refined but no less real look, when it's really a lot about the placement of the highlights. Let's get something a bit darker blue by here. Let's boost this blue up a bit. Got quite a lot of blue on the face, so it should be some blue here as well. We've got a lot of blue going to happen here on this highlight on the hand. Got blue and greens going on here, and a bit coming underneath as well. And on there too. I'll be finishing off this feed in a couple of minutes, so if anybody got any questions, I'm going to go downstairs and have a bit of something to eat. And then a few have asked about the hand, so why not? I might as well come back soon and do the hand as well. Chuck a bit of texture down on by here. I think that's my dog Poppy telling me supper's probably almost ready. She's getting in on the act as well. I think she wants to be drawn or painted next, but you know what, her fur is so curly and everywhere, it would not be an easy challenge at all. I'm just doing a bit of texture everywhere, you know, here and there, just to make it look a little bit more realistic while I get to the final kind of stage that I'm going to leave it at today. This is a fun little drawing. Nothing too difficult. Just thought it'd be nice to do something that's a little bit more tonal in its effect. Rather than, you know, concentrating a lot on colours. And sometimes if you've done something that's took a lot of work and it's really colourful, it can be sometimes quite nice to do more of a tonal study. That's something you haven't got to be thinking a real lot about with colours as well on there. So I hope you've enjoyed how this one's coming along. As I said, I'll do a bit of that blue next time. I'm going to be going a lot lighter up here eventually. With pastels, you know, we've got that benefit, haven't we, that we can go light and dark back and forth with it. I've got a purpley pencil here somewhere. Got a bit of that here too. See, there's a bit of a purpley tinge there, and it's also there. Now if you're finding that with these lockdowns and everything, you find it hard to, you know, even start a drawing, just give yourself, say you're going to do something for 5 minutes. The secret is take the pressure off. Take the pressure off yourself. Say, I'm just going to do whatever. I'm going to do a sketch, something I like doing, so something easyish like an eye or whatever. I'm going to do it just for 5 minutes. That's it. And leave it at that. And usually what happens is that you do 5 minutes, you get a bit carried away, you lose yourself in it, and before you know it, you've done an hour or even just 5 minutes. Doesn't matter, you haven't got to keep going for it, but take the pressure off yourself. Now's not the time to be pressurizing yourself. I say on my Patreon channel, try to be your own friend, your own best friend for a bit. Take that pressure off, do a bit of drawing, and you know, if it doesn't work, well, you've probably learned something anyway, so it's never time wasted. It's only paper and an art supply like a pencil. It's not a big deal. Everything doesn't have to work. Everything doesn't work for me. You learn more from the things that don't work as well as you'd hoped. You learn more from that than you do from the ones that just seem to kind of flow, and before you know it, it's finished. Those are not the learning experience drawings. They're the ones that just happen. The ones you learn from are the ones that you battle through, are a bit more of a challenge. But I love doing just simple drawings, simple studies, perhaps the beak of a bird or the eye of a horse or whatever. Sounds a little bit like a witch's cauldron where I'm listening like that. But just little things that you can, 10 minutes, even with just a big pen, you can do something small. Perhaps a black pen and a white pen, and nothing more than that. As I say, take the pressure off. Now is not the time to be pressurizing yourself to create something huge, impressive. If you want to do that and give yourself a challenge, hey, go for it. Don't feel that you desperately have to. Okay, I think we'll leave that somewhere around about here-ish. I'll go for a couple more minutes because I'm getting carried away now. Okay, Nerd Incognito Sue. I hope you can list somewhere what supplies he uses. So yeah, as somebody said straight away underneath, I've got lots of videos that say the supplies I use, and you know what? A lot of artists out there, they list lots of expensive and difficult kind of supplies, but mine are really simple. I've got other videos out there that really go into depth, list everything. Don't ask me to list the stuff that I'm using now so that people can draw along, because that's a handful, literally, of the pencils that I've got on the go going back and forth now. And I'm not just saying put, for instance, Derwent P320 in this section, then put Carbothello, whatever it is, 430 over the top in that section. That's paint by numbers. I don't like it. I don't advise doing that type of thing at all. But supplies for the basics, if you're not working too large, all you need is the paper that I prefer because it's what my technique works on best, pastel matte paper. Okay, whatever colour, but I like the best colour for me, the most usable colour is dark grey or the brown. Okay, so that's the colours that I would say. So you want a couple of sheets of that. Pencils, I'd use either Pitt pastel pencils, or I would use I might as well fill this in, hadn't I, while I'm talking, or Carbothello pencils. Either of those or both of those. When you buy in sets, so the larger the set you buy, generally the cheaper each individual pencil works out. So if you think you're going to be serious enough about it, and they're not expensive pencils, they're the cheaper of the pencils, then those are the ones I would suggest getting. Pitt and Carbothello. And a sheet of pastel matte paper, preferably, let's lose that edge there, dark grey or brown. And then you're away to go. You don't need any more than that. And then you can build it up from there if you want. Can I explain, Joanne probably just joined, why the chunky black pencil? Because this goes much darker than any pencil will. It's a new pastel stick. Let me pop my pencils down a second, I'll show you. Sounds like I've thrown them down, but they are just on the little table. So if I pop that open by pushing that, okay, out he comes. They're normally about that long. New pastel. You can also use other hard pastel sticks like Faber-Castell. Pop them in there. This is Koh-i-Noor 5343. This is a metal holder, but you can get cheaper versions of this. You don't even need to use it. It's just something I bought this year that I like the look of. You can get plastic versions. Jackson's have got them as well. Just sharpen the end of that with some sandpaper. Pop them in there. It's a bit easier to hold, a bit cleaner to hold as well. There's nothing complicated with that. Anybody that's buying art material anyway, if you have a look on my website, jasonmorgan.co.uk, right at the very bottom of that, I've got a link to Jackson's. I just got an affiliate link on there. Affiliate link means that I earn a tiny percentage for everything you would buy on there if you use my link. So I'd appreciate that, because at the end of the year I can stock up on my art supplies basically. So if you're already buying it, if you just use that link, it doesn't cost you anything, it just means I get some money then for buying my own art supplies, that's all. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. I'll come back, I'll finish the hand, we'll finish this bit of the fur, make a nice little drawing out of it, and I'll see you all again next time. So stay safe, take care, I hope you enjoy your Christmas as much as you possibly can. It'll only be a couple of days and I'll be back online. Remember, the beginning of the month is a great time to join the Patreon channel as well, because the funds are taken out right at the beginning of the month, so that's the best time to do it. And I'll leave you with my dirty pastel fingers as the final shot, and I'll see you all again next time. Stay safe, take care.